welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Today I've got an interview I want to share with you that I had with Allan Ackerman a little over a week ago. Now, you guys may remember that I recently did a review on Allan Ackerman's masterclass lecture, and I had mentioned that I thought that the Q&A session could have been better. I reached out to Allan Ackerman and asked him if he would let me interview him, and he was very gracious to accept. So I've come up with a couple of questions that I thought you guys would be interested in. And you know that I'm well read, well studied. I've been into magic for well over 30 years. I can tell you guys that I learned a wealth of information from Allan Ackerman. Again, it doesn't surprise me because he's really a living legend and he's just a fountain of information about magic. So I hope that you guys like the interview, and I would highly recommend when you're done watching the interview that you go over to his YouTube channel and subscribe. I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them below. I hope you enjoy the interview, and thanks again for tuning in. We'll start the interview. And so I have Allan Ackerman here with me, who most of you are very well familiar with, world-renowned card magician. He's also a teacher, right, Allan? Did you teach math?
Was a teacher.
You were a teacher, right? Did you teach, was it math you taught? Is that right?
Math for the first 16 years I taught part-time. I had a computer store across from UNLV, and I taught, sometimes I taught Pascal and Basic, and I taught a math program called Maple. And then I got, that job got terminated because I didn't have a PhD. I just had a master, and we were called lecturers, and and they had them in English and biology and all that. And there was 80 of us. We all got terminated the same year, and they replaced us with grad assistants. So
okay.
So my wife said, "Hey, Allan, you wanted to do magic?" Oh, and then my had some unfortunate accident in our computer store. We got robbed, and one of my buddies my partner got shot and killed, and so we just shut the store down. That was in like 96, I think. So this happened about I had this part-time job at UNLV, and it worked great because I could do magic and that was just fine. But that ended then in 99. And my wife said, "Why don't you try to do full-time magic? You've wanted to do that forever." So I said, "Okay." So I worked my ass off for a whole year. The deal was I make $100,000, and that could be my job.
Okay.
I came in halfway after hard years of work. So I came in at about 50 grand. And so the wife said, "Time to get another job." So they had a networking job over at the community college. So that's what I did for the last 17 years. No math at all. It was just, I taught VMware, virtualization, and the Microsoft server program. So those two disciplines. And then I also sometimes taught PC hardware repair. Because I had a computer store, I was pretty adept at fixing computers. Still am.
Did you do magic for your students too?
All the time. Yeah.
Kind of hard to get that out, right?
Right. Yeah. It's always fun. That's a good teaching tool.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. What a lot of people probably don't realize is you have your own YouTube channel as well. And
yeah.
I've seen a lot of your performances.
So we've got this Wednesday night magic club here in Las Vegas. It's been going on 50 some years, started by Gary Darwin. And one of the guys, Eben Rockmaker, he's a professional YouTuber. He's got a couple different channels and makes quite a bit of money. So about 2 years ago, he kind of said, "Allan, I want to get you up on YouTube." So he was kind of my prod and helps me out quite a bit.
Okay.
So I've been on about 2 years now. So
awesome.
I put up a video every 2 weeks. Second, fourth Wednesday of the month.
Second, fourth Wednesday. And I'm going to leave a link below this video so everyone can go and check out your channel. They can subscribe to it, and they can just learn more about your magic, because I remember back in the day when I picked up your advanced card control series, and that was like really the beginning for me to like learn so much about just card moves, and I distinctly remember you had this affinity for like the Kelly bottom placement move. You had so many variations on it and stuff, and it was just really an eye opener for me. And probably today, a lot of people probably maybe they didn't really weren't exposed to that. And probably my first question for you would be someone with your caliber of all of these years of doing card magic, right? Like, what would you say would be your go-to card control that you use, or maybe like your 2 or 3 card controls that you use most frequently? Because, somebody who put together an advanced card control series, that is like something that I think everybody would be interested to know is what does Allan Ackerman use?
Okay, so I use a lot of times I use uh, gosh, it's credited. I think Martin Nash called it the Infinity Crimp, but it's in the old books. You just take and you just do that. So Martin's technique was that, and you're all set. You got a nice control. It's much easier to put in than a breather, and then you've got a very convincing control. And then I often will use this like with take a card. So they take out a card and I do a reverse spread. So when they put it back, it looks like it's going right back in the same spot, but that 4 diamonds now is going right on top of it where I just put the breather in.
Well, that's really slick, Alan. That looks like you
So,
did nothing.
yeah, so it's a great little control.
Yeah, in
Um,
your hands, that looks like so innocent. It looks like absolutely nothing has happened.
right. Then I love all the old stuff, but I don't like in jogs for the most part. And the reason being is you can kind of see them. So I don't mind it if you do an in jog and then you do a dribble, then that's okay. Then that looks like a mess. And then I can still get that in jog back. You see it there?
Correct.
Right there. But just going forward. And then I can get it back and then I can cut to it. So instead of doing an in jog, so that let's say we got the ace of clubs, I always do a side jog. And you can't see the side jog. There's nothing to see. Right back up to the top.
Right, nice.
So, but a lot of times you need what it looks like. You guarantee the cards in the center of the deck. So that's where those convincing controls come in so nicely. And I've got several that I love, and a lot of great work has been done with these over the years. So the first one Marlo showed me right outside of Julian's restaurant. His technique was take a card, and he said, remember this card. He came up, and then he went down. And he said, so keep an eye on your card, and that was it. And then I brought it to the bottom, and that wasn't bad. I liked it, except I didn't kind of like this up down motion so much. So then I came up with a little thing where they take a card and they say, remember your card right there. And then I out jog it. And so I put that in my book, Magic Mafia Effects, that I wrote in '69. And so that shuts that down to the bottom. I showed that to Harvey Rosenthal in '68. And then he showed that to Larry Jennings in that same year. So and that became a very popular control. Then I applied it to the Kelly bottom replacement. I always thought this move looked kind of ugly, that claw.
Uh-huh.
I call it the death grip. And you can see it 200 feet away.
Right.
So, so right after I came up with that method, I came up with this method. So they say stop. And this guy has no finger movement whatsoever. So then you just out jog the card. And there it is, and it goes straight to the bottom. And you don't have any of that claw movement.
None of that weird None of that weird motion in the
Yeah.
front
So
then.
what? Yeah. So what is happening is you're doing a side glide. All right. So you do a side glide, and then you're. I don't know if you can. I'm gonna get this closer to here. You get a little tiny ledge right there of the cart from the side glide, and your thumb pushes down on that. So my thumb's pushing down on that, and that sends it to the bottom. So there's absolutely no finger movement in the front whatsoever. So I had that in a little book I wrote called Esoterrus. I wrote that in 1971.
I think you had that probably also in your advanced card control
I did.
series.
I'm
'Cause
sure I did.
I remember that move and probably some other variations that you put at the time. So like the double undercut is not something you would ever use then, huh?
No, I don't use it anymore. Back in, gosh, I gave this to a Harry Lorraine book many years ago. And I didn't give it a very good name. I called it the simulated double undercut or something like that. It should have been called double undercut, equivoque, or equivoque or something, or the same thing. But anyway, you're here, and it looks like you're going to just cut the cards and bury that ace in the center of the deck, but you're just doing a one-handed cut, a one-card cut. So you're here, and I'm just going to take the top card, but this coalesces as I take the top card and I go in ace grip, and it goes like that. So in speed, it
That's
just
extremely deceptive, Alan.
yeah, and that does the same thing that a double undercut does. So that's kind of what I do. And then sometimes I'll do a double undercut on the table, like in a shuffle sequence, and I'll go ahead and shuffle and go on a double undercut. So just get a break under one, cut, and then split for a shuffle, and then keep the bottom stock.
That's great. Yeah. That's really awesome. So just those handful of controls are just really useful. And especially that first control, that is just absolutely deceptive. Like that first control with the reverse spread, that is like awesome. And I think that like anybody watching would absolutely see that that's probably the most useful control. Just so easy, looks so innocent. So those are actually all really great. And that last one looks very deceptive too. That's great. So, your last set of lecture notes was from 2019. Are you currently working on anything else new right now?
I do have a new set of notes. I did a lecture up in St. Louis in April, and it's called, what do they call it? Senior Moments 2023.
Okay.
So they're $20 if anybody interested. But they have I think 7 tricks in one move, or it might be 6 tricks in one move. Okay.
Okay.
But, yeah. So I do have a new set of notes, and then I got a new book coming out with Vanishing Ink called All In, and hopefully that will be out early next year.
Okay. And is that going to be like a massive compilation of all your?
Yeah. So it's going to be a 2-volume set. I think I had something like 80 items in there.
Wow.
And,
okay.
A bunch of moves too.
So did you hand pick these yourself, or did they choose them, or what do you think?
No, what it was the last book I wrote was Las Vegas Karma in a hardcover, and that was in 1993. So basically, this is my favorite stuff since that book came out.
Oh, okay. I see.
So I had something like 9 sets of lecture notes and a lot of DVDs, and so it's my favorite stuff, and plus a lot of new stuff too.
Okay, awesome. So we'll have to be looking out for that. You said it's going to come out next year.
Yeah, I think Andy said he's going to shoot for first or second month of 2024.
Okay, 2024.
I'm going to work a convention in England next year called the Session in January 24. He said he wanted to kind of correlate the publication of the book with that.
Okay. Is there any videos on your YouTube channel that anyone can look at to see, like, in terms of like any of those effects that are on your new set of lecture notes?
Okay, so what I'm going to start to do, so I put one of them up there about 2 weeks ago. It's called Impromptu Breakaway.
Oh,
and
okay.
it's
I
pretty
think that.
close.
All right, you were saying?
So anyway, I'm going to start labeling stuff, all in there along with it, so you know where they're, if this is going to be in the book or not. Right. So I'll start doing that from now on. Except I promised two things. First. I'm going to do something. Somebody asked me to do Eddie's Devilish Miracle, so I said I would get that up, and then I got a matching routine that I made a few little changes. That was an idea of Steve Ramos, Nick Tross, that I told Steve did it at the lecture, and I kind of tweaked it a little bit. So I told him I'd stick that up on YouTube. So those will be my next two items, and then everything from then on should be from all in for the next rest of the year anyway.
Okay. Yeah. What about though your current lecture notes? Like, is there anything like you said? Well, you said your last video is in effect from the lecture notes. Is that right?
Yeah, so I got a couple of the ideas, but they've all been improved a little bit. Except one of them's a real old one, and I think I got it up on YouTube, but I can't quite remember it. I just had a really nice impromptu. It's kind of ungaffed, uh, 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 kind of a brainwave, but I've got that on there. Using a Mark Mason move. I used to use it with a topic, and then all of a sudden I saw a lecture 20 years ago by Mark Mason, and he had the Dave Rumfelt move backwards. And he didn't have a trick with it. He just said, "Hey, this is kind of a cool move." And I said, "Oh gosh, that solves the problem for my trick. I can do it with a t-shirt and a pair of blue jeans. I don't need to have my suit coat on anymore." So I think I put that up on YouTube, but that's in the new notes, and I'm real happy with that handling. I think I just called it a prediction times two, but it's
Okay.
a great opener, and it's every bit as good as Brainwave deck, and it's with the regular deck basically.
Okay. Awesome. That's great. Yeah. And I think one of the questions I had asked you was if I just give you like a shuffle deck in use, right? Like if somebody handed you one, what would you say would be like your go-to Allan Ackerman effect that you would perform if somebody just handed you a deck? What would you do more than likely? What do you think you would do?
Well, it depends if you're standing or sitting. So I had a trick in a book I wrote called "Here's My Card," called Quick Coincidence, and I really like it because you can get a hold of the four aces or whatever, any four of a kind that you want. So we'll just do the trick. These are real shuffles, obviously. Spectator can shuffle, and so you say, "Look, I'm going to run through these cards." And I'm going to remove a card that I feel suits your personality, David. Okay. So let me find one here. Let's see. Maybe that Jack looks pretty good right there. I'm going to go. No, I'm going to go with this one right here. That'll be my card that I'm going to use. All right. So we're going to shuffle these cards up a little bit. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to deal these cards out one by one, like just like this. And I'm going to have you say the word stop. Okay. But I want you to let me at least get like a half dozen or so cards out before you say stop. So we got something to work with. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So anytime
Okay.
you say
Stop.
stop, right there.
How about there?
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you said stop here. We know what this one is. So we're going to use the next one down. And that's going to be kind of what we call a locator card, all right, or an indicator card. So I'm just going to spread these cards out, and you can insert this card wherever you want in the deck, middle, top, bottom. So the spectator inserts the card wherever they want. So let's say they set it right there, and you say, let's take a peek at that card. That is the Ace of Spades, my prediction card. Right there. But the amazing thing is you jabbed it between two cards and you managed to find our other two aces
Nice.
from a shuffle deck in use. So it just had a very nice call that you could not see. And
Yeah, it
and
looked
it's
really innocent. It did
yeah,
look, it looked great, you know.
yes.
So that
So,
that does that. Where can somebody find that effect?
okay, so I had it on the Advanced Card Control series. I can't remember which one, but it was in a book called Esoterist. No, no. Uh, Here's my card. Here's my card, and I called it Quick Coincidence. Quick
Okay.
Coincidence. And I wrote that one in 1973, but it didn't. It said so. Um, Gamblers Book Club here in Las Vegas was my publisher for many, many years, and they would I I publish they publish these books of mine called like 25,000 rolls for red black roulette or craps by the numbers or blackjack or roulette by the colors or roulette by the numbers. And it basically was for simulation money management players, all right, to test their systems out. Now, I always would say, because I started my master's degree in 73, summer of 73, and I already knew you could not change the negative expectation of the game. And they said that. But what you can do is design a money management system that will win 9 out of 10 times. It's just, when you win 30 bucks, 30 bucks, 30 bucks. And that 10th time you lose 300 bucks. So you're down 30 bucks. You never can change that expectation. So, but anyway, they were good sellers. And the TI 52 had come out at that time. There was a big contest back then on who could get, because there was no memory on these little programmable calculators. They had like 52 steps and that was it. So there was a big contest who could come up with a shuffle simulator that worked. And I did. And TI published it and it turned out to be a real popular little thing. And so all these books were based on this calculator that TI had. So they had my program that simulated the game. And then you could, if you had bought the printer for the calculator, you could print out as many tries as you want. Well, I'd get those books done and they'd have them published in 2 weeks, the gambling books. I
Okay.
think we did like
Wow, that's quick.
six or seven on them on this calculator. And then when my magic book came out, they got that in the fall of 73 and they didn't get it out till 78. And it was kind of a shame because some of the material got out.
A little outdated. Yeah, that's quite a bit of
It
time.
wasn't outdated. It just got one guy published on Item and Jeff Busby mainly. And and so that was just kind of upsetting.
Right. I see. Okay. Well, that's
So,
exciting though. At least I like the effect, and it's just great to see like what your preferences are, especially because after I watched your master class, there was a lot of material on there, and when you watched my review, you could see that I tried to choose like the material on there that you presented that I thought people would like, the stuff that I got the strongest reactions from, like the searching for a thought effect. That effect,
uh-huh.
colossal. And even the people that have watched my review and the ones that have seen your masterclass have told me that they really liked your improvements because it just makes the whole thing look a lot cleaner, because you're clearly showing the cards in between the face up mates. There's no ambiguity, and yet it's a mystery to spectators. And so, that's probably like the effect of yours that I've used like the most recently, like the most amount, just because it gets such solid reactions. It's like a go-to. Like I just use that nonstop because you're guaranteed that people are going to get you're going to get really, really strong reactions from that.
Yeah.
Kind of hand in hand with that. Like this is from a shuffle deck in use, but if I were to ask you, like, what effect do you think that you like? What Allan Ackerman effect would you perform if you had a deck like in a stack, like in Cy Stebbins, for instance, or whatnot? Is there a routine that you like the most, or one that you use the most of yours?
Oh, I got quite a few of them and I like them all.
Okay,
So,
you don't have a favorite then.
uh, Um, I probably the A and D sandwich would be one of my
Right.
favorites. I like that. I think on the master class I got this little variation of a Peter Kane trick. He called it Tetradism, and I think I called mine the grandson of Tetradism. I really have a good time performing that. It's real easy.
Yeah, it was
And
like that was like semi self-working, wasn't it?
almost, yeah.
Right?
I can
Yeah.
do it if you want.
Awesome. Yeah, let's take a look at it. You know, the effect of yours that I would tell you that I like the most that uses the stack is probably the one that I think it's called the automatic deck. I think that's what it was called. Was it called the automatic deck? The one that basically you're doing the tantalizer, but with the Cy Stebbins. And
Right, yeah.
because it's so easy to get to whatever thought of card that they're thinking of instantly almost, right?
Right.
And it
Yeah.
really solves the problem of how do you get their card into position 22? Like you solved the problem completely. So like
Yeah.
personally, that's the one that I like of yours. But let's take a look at yours. Let's take a look at the one that you're
So
talking about. Because just for those people that haven't seen the lecture, this also might, lead them to want to go and pick up the lecture to really learn the effect too. Because it really is a great little effect. Lots of kickers built in. Let's take a look at it.
so this was a started by an idea of Peter Kane. He had a trick called Tetradism, and I call this the grandson of Tetradism. So when you cut the cards, when you cut these cards, every card changes. Well, wow, getting a lot of fives here. Position, right? Now I tell you what, let's go ahead and let's give these guys a good mix. So those are getting all shuffled up. And I asked the spectator to cut. So spectator cuts. And you say, okay, so now at this point, nobody in the world knows what the top card is, bottom card, or any card in between. So I'm just going to run my finger here, David, and just say the word stop.
Okay. Stop.
Right there, we're going to drop down,
Yep.
and we're going to use this card right there. Okay? Now you can change your mind if you want. But if you're happy with that card, we'll leave it.
We're good with that.
All right. Now we're going to call this card, we're going to give that card a name. We're going to call this the remarkable coincidence. All right. Now what I'm going to need is 3 packets the same size. Well, I got 51 cards left. So 3 divides 51 perfectly, 17. 17 times 3 is 51. So we're going to go 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So we have 17 cards here. I want you to notice we've shuffled, you've cut, I've cut. No 4 aces together, no royal flushes, just a random arrangement of 17 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait a minute. I said we're going to leave things face up. So we can see what's going on. So there's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And then over here, we've got 17 by default. All right. So I want you to observe on these 3 columns of cards, there are no correlations at all between any of these 3 columns. Well, let's see what the connection is between our remarkable coincidence and these 3 columns of cards. So let's check out the top group. Nothing unusual there. Nothing special here. No surprises there. No coincidences here. Oh, that's lucky. You got a pair of 7s. 3 7s, that's a coincidence. And that makes it a remarkable coincidence. Got 4 7s. Now we're going to try this again. We're going to try this again. And I'm going to let you, the spectator, shuffle and cut the cards. So you give the spectator to shuffle if they want. And then you say, I'm going to divvy the cards up into 4 small packets of cards here. All right. Then I still have my 4 sevens right there on top. We're going to lose these 1, 2, 3, 4 sevens down into the depths of the deck by placing 1 7 on top of each one of these pockets. All right. And then we're going to shuffle up the cards, mix them all up, get them all confused. So they're getting shuffled. And then you say, okay, this time, and I'm going to let you, the spectator, deal these cards. All right. Doesn't have to be 17 anymore. It can be any number you want. So you can deal 2 or 3 cards if you want. You could deal half the deck, 3/4 of the deck, how many cards, whatever you want. So you say, but before I give you the deck, I would like another card selected for a remarkable coincidence. So just say stop, David.
Okay, how about stop there?
Right here. This one here. And you can give them the opportunity to change their mind if they want.
Right.
You happy?
That's
happy?
good. That's good.
Okay, I'm going to set the remarkable coincidence card right over there. You give the deck to the spectator. So now this is the spectator.
Right.
So you deal down as many or few as you want. Whenever you want to stop the deal, stop the deal. Say stop.
Okay. Stop.
Right there. You square up. And then you ask the spectator to pick somebody else on the table. And you hand the deck to another spectator. And they go and start dealing. So anytime you want, say stop.
How about stop there?
Okay. And then you say you can adjust the size of every packet. You happy? So you randomly dealt those packets. Let's see what a remarkable coincidence. My gosh, it's a 7 again. And yes, indeed, we have another remarkable coincidence.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it feels like the spectator did the whole thing.
Yeah, that's great. You know, the best part about this was that was one of the effects on your masterclass that I almost did a demo of it myself, but the problem was there was too much material to review. You know, I just tried to pick out what I thought like people would really like to look at, but the problem was there was a lot of other effects that were probably just as good, but I had to like handpick what I thought, you know, because people in general, they have a short attention span. So I couldn't turn the review into like an hour long, but this was great, Allan, because people got a good chance to see this effect, because as you mentioned, this is something that's really entertain 3 or 4 people at the same time, get everybody involved. And like you said, it's because it's based on that stack work. It's not even a memorized deck that people are scared of, you know?
Right.
So yeah, that's
so
really
this one has the stack I use is a Tetradistic stack. And so that is and it's in Erdnase. He said, everybody think Erdnase is talking about 8 kings, the little rhyme. But what he really says is that rhyme, he's got a line in there, one line. It says, it takes too much time to recite the rhyme. Just take ace through king, shuffle them up, throw them on the table, and memorize them. And repeat that 4 times, having like colors 26 cards apart. And he's got that right in Erdnase. Right. So that's what I've been using since I was a kid. Now, a real good friend of mine, Jennifer Gwynn, has really improved this. So I wrote a big article in one of my notes, why I love this stack. And what, because it's easy to learn. And so Erdnase said, hey, it only takes 20 minutes to memorize 12 cards or 13 cards. And it took me about 2 hours. All right, not 20, but then you've got a complete memorized deck if you have the first 13 memorized. So so in my stack, all right, it's Jack 8, 10, Ace, 4 8s, 3 kings, 6 92, Queen 5. All right, so name any card you want in the deck. So this was kind of I wrote this big article on a Tetradistic stack on what I called the 30-minute Erdnase stack, but I said it took me about 2 hours.
Okay, how about the 3 of clubs?
Three, three of clubs. Okay, so three is seven in my stack. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's the three. All right.
Okay.
So now in the Erdenase system, he just used chase, clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds. All right. So then if you would have this guy right here, you would know 26 cards away would be the three of clubs. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And 26 cards away is the three of clubs. So then all you do is add 26 to 7, and you've got your number 33. That's 33 in my stack.
Okay. There you go.
So all you got to do is memorize 13 cards, and you've got the position of every card in the deck.
Right.
By adding 13, 26, or 39. So
right.
you do need to keep your chase in.
Right. And I imagine after using this for years, you must know the exact position of every card without even.
Oh, I do. So it started off in 2 hours, I could start using my stack, but then when you start using it all the time, you know everything. So I mean, I don't have to think. I don't have to do any adding anymore. You give me a card and I know the number. Right. That's the whole idea of a mem deck.
Right.
But this is kind of a neat little idea because it doesn't look like you see chase here at all, does it?
No.
I got a diamond, club, diamond, spade, heart, spade, but I do have chase going on. And this was an idea of Jennifer Gwynn. They do repeat every 13. And so you can name any card. Name any card.
How about the 9 of spades?
9 of spades. That's 36 in my stack. Okay. So what's the next 9 after spade and chase? So 13 cards away from
would be.
All right, would be 49, and that would be 9 of diamonds, and there it is. And that's with every card in the deck. So even though you can't see chased anymore, it's still embedded in the stack. And this is going to be a big thing in my book. And this is going to be
awesome.
like a 130-page ebook on this wonderful stack of Jennifer's called Tetra Red.
That's what it's called, huh?
That's the name of this stack. Yeah. So I kept the same stack for 50 years, and then about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when Jennifer introduced me this, I said, oh, this is so clever. Because you can get to it from size Stebbins, and I can get back to size Stebbins by dialing a phone number. So she called it Tetra Red after Petra Redford's stack, and that you can get into size Stebbins, and then she's got a dial sequence 2124211, and you just do that on size Stebbins, and you're in the stack.
Awesome. That's really great.
So this is the mem deck I've been using now for about a year and a half.
Okay. Wow. So that's something
But it's
else.
still Tetradistic. It's still the same one. And I love this stack because it gets into a stay stack so easy. All you got to do is weigh the cards and get someplace close to 26 and then reverse count and show you got the right number, then adjust to get, and then you're in stay stack. So if I just reverse count this 26, I'm in a stay stack, and then I can do all the fun stuff I can want to do with stay stack. So I got all my mem deck stuff that I can do, and then I got my stay stack stuff I can do, all because I'm using a Tetradistic stack.
Yeah, that sounds ideal because there are a lot of effects that use a Tetradistic stack that you can't normally do with a memorized deck because they're not in that order. But if you can memorize a stack that is Tetradistic, then you would have then you don't have to transfer from one stack to the other. You don't have to do any of that. You have it already all built in. So definitely something to consider because, there's just so many different options out there for people that want to learn to memorize deck. And it's becoming even more popular every day,
The culling you can do off a Tetradistic is just awesome. So you can cull every card in the deck with the Tetradistic stack with ease if you can do 2 pharaohs.
If you can do 2 pharaohs, yeah, there you go. So that's great. That's great. I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to be picking up your book as soon as it's available for sure. One last question that I wanted to ask you that I had put in the questions I was going to ask you, just because people always are interested to know these things. Like, have you ever had an experience where maybe you were performing and things didn't turn out the way that you wanted, and maybe like you had an experience you could share with us about that, how you dealt with that in general?
Yeah, I can think of one. It happened a long time ago. I was on the airplane uh, going to California, and I had a magician friend by me. His name was Dick Kester, and um, the stewardess came back and she saw we were messing with the cards, and she said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, we're doing magic." And so I was doing, had a card selected, and I'm in here like this, doing this, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to shuffle." And I'm on the tray, right? I'm going to shuffle these face up and the face down, and boom, big hit of wind and cloud, and the
Oh,
cards all,
whoops.
oops, right? So Kester looked at me like, "What am I going to do?" And I said, "And just with a snap of the fingers, every card in the deck just straightened out." I did a reverse fan to get out of it.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
that's what
so
you
that's
did.
so that was a left-handed pressure fan. So if you do a left-handed pressure fan, it doesn't even look like a reverse fan. Looks like everything's face down, and I got half the deck face up there. So that was a sleight that I had learned for my all backs routine way back when, to show the deck was all blank and didn't look. I didn't want it to look like a reverse fan, so I had that in my repertoire. And then I thought, oh, just off the fly, I said, let me straighten out the deck with that, because I had a mess, didn't know how to go. But yeah, so
Oh,
just kind of,
that's excellent. Because
so yeah,
Allan,
so that really doesn't look like a reverse fan anymore. And then you can
no,
show it
not at
all blank,
all. Yeah.
and it's a worthwhile sleight. I don't do too many sleights, both right and lefty, but that one I took the time to learn. Do a pressure pan in the left, in the right hand.
Yeah, so can you just do it so it doesn't work if you do, oh, it's gonna be like, oh, you're right, it's gonna be like a reverse fan then is what it is really, right?
It's exactly a reverse fan, but it doesn't look like a reverse fan.
Because you're doing it in the right hand,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Wow,
Yeah.
I've never even tried that. Like I'd have to like practice that just because it's in a weird place. It's in your left hand. It's, you're doing it in the other hand. But yeah, because I'm used to doing the reverse fan in the left hand, not doing a regular fan in the right hand. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's great. That's great because I think everybody has some experience where things go wrong. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you don't, it means you haven't performed half as much as you should, because if you perform a lot, sooner or later something's going to go wrong, and it's hilarious when it does. Sort of. I mean, people are always worried about it, but overall, what's the big deal? Hey, it happens, right? It
Yeah.
happens to all of us. So
Yeah. It happens to everybody.
yeah, that's excellent. So that's really great, though. Thanks so much for going over all this stuff and really introducing. We can talk about all of the different magic that you've put out over the years, and hopefully people can get a real sense besides just my review, but like the different material that you're putting out, and take a look at your lecture notes, the new set of lecture notes that you have out, even your old stuff. A lot of your older material I myself have bought off of eBay, or other magicians that have sent them to me, people that I was friends with, that they sent me a bunch of their old stuff that they don't even use anymore and stuff like that. And so I mean, it's funny, if you saw some of the old DVDs of yours that I have downstairs in a box, you laugh if you saw those. But hey, it's great just because the newer generation of people, they weren't exposed to that stuff. And nowadays, I mean, you can't even find a DVD player almost anymore. So nowadays,
Right.
everything has become digital. You know what I mean? So, but definitely the books are the source, like look, like your library that you've got behind you. And so it'll be great to get your new set of books that are coming out by Vanishing Ink. So anyway,
Without the children in it.
yeah, exactly. That's all good. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Allan, and I'll
All
see you
righty.
soon.